Hey everybody, today I'm talking about Air, Land and Sea. Now this is a small box, 2-player only filler game designed by John Perry and published by Arcane Wonders. I think this one came out in 2018 and I think it's got a bit of a cult following here. People who've played this game tend to really enjoy it. Obviously you can see from the box itself it has this World War theme, I believe World War II. So let's take a look about how the game actually plays out. So this is a tug of war style game where you have these three theatres of war, air, land and sea. Of course, each player is given a hand of cards at the start of the round. You've got 6 cards to play with, and it's important to say that you'll never draw up in this round. This is what you've got, and of course my opponent is going to have the same, but we are not going to know what we have. This is just for demonstration purposes. These are all going to be secret in reality. You're going to have these points tokens, and I should say the objective of the game is to get to 12 points. The first person to do that is going to win. And the game is actually, I suppose you could call it a micro game, where although 12 cards are distributed up between the players, there are 6 cards taken out from round to round, so you haven't got perfect information. But the fact you've only got 18 cards still does make this quite a concise game, and gives you quite a good idea about what games are going to be in play. So your cards are going to look like this. So you've got cards corresponding to the different theatres. So you've got the land cards, you've got the sea cards, and you've got the air cards. And as a general rule, these can only be played into those corresponding theatres. So sea cards will go into sea cards, and so on. However, there are different things you need to consider. So this big point here, or the big number here, is going to show the strength of that card. And you're going to factor that in once the round is over. So say I had a strength of 4 on this side and my opponent had a strength of 5, then my opponent would win the air theatre. So the player with the most or the highest number value on their side of the table is going to win that theatre. And if you win 2 out of the 3 theatres, then you're going to win the round essentially. Or if players have the ability to concede or withdraw before that happens and potentially not give up as many points. So if you feel like you are going to lose the round because you're getting absolutely hammered, then you can choose to withdraw, and depending on how many cards you've got left in your hand is going to determine the amount of points that your opponent scores. So for example here, if I still had 4 cards in my hand, I would actually withdraw because I think I've got no chance of counteracting this, and my opponent would only score 2 points rather than the 6 points if we were to fight to the bitter end. So yeah, so that's going to be one way you're going to factor in once you're playing cards, is the actual number value. But also you can see each card, or at least most of the cards, has a special ability assigned to it as well. So for example, this airdrop has an instant ability signified by this lightning bolt, which means that the next time I play a card, you could play it to a non-matching theatre. So again, a breaking rule there. So if I'm really losing this air at the airspace, I can choose to play this blockade card, which would normally only be able to be played on the sea area into the air area, because again, the ability of this one. And again, this is going to trigger more abilities, such as this blockade is going to say if any player plays a card to an adjacent theatre occupied by at least 3 other cards, then destroy that card. So if you are dominating a side here and you've got 3 cards played, then you can actually prevent other people from jumping in there because the blockade is going to destroy that. So it's all about playing these cards in a particular order to get maximum mileage out of them, knowing when to concede, knowing if you're going to push for the big smash victory and get those 6 points and try to rush for that 12 points to actually win the game. So let's take a look at what some of these cards do, and you'll see how cleverly or how smart these cards are in terms of linking with one another and synergizing, and how they're going to not only interact with your cards but your opponent's cards as well. So this maneuver card here lets you flip an uncovered card to in an adjacent theatre. So we haven't talked about flipping yet. So flipping is quite important, because if, say for example, again, I really wanted to boost my air because I'm getting absolutely smashed, but I don't have any air cards, I can actually choose to flip the card over and play it like this, which is not going to give me any special powers, but it is going to give me 2 strength points to contribute towards that theatre. So flipping is a good option, and this one will let me flip one to the other side, which can act as a bit of a trap really, because if I had it like this and then I played a card here to flip it over, I can flip it over and say, here we go, you got 3 points rather than the 2, and I'm going to beat you a lot more than you thought I was going to. You've got the cover fire card here, which is quite cool, because For example, if I played these 2 cards here on the land area, although they've only got 1 or 2 points here, if I ended up playing this cover fire card on top of them, it means that everything covered by this cover fire card, as in a card played on top of them, is going to be worth strength 4 now. So we've actually got a strength 12 here now, rather than the standard 7 than it would be at face value. Again, this ambush card lets you flip over any card, whether that's your side or your opponent's side. You've got the reinforced card that lets you draw a card and play it face down to an adjacent theatre. Let's take a look at some of my opponent's cards here. So you've got Disrupt, which is a strong strength value, but starting with you, both players choose and flip one of their uncovered cards. You've got Containment, which if any other player plays a face-down card, you can destroy it. So it stops people from playing cards face-down, which will, of course, stop the strategy of some of the other cards. You've got the Transport, which you can move your card to a different theatre. Just the big heavy artillery cards here, they're strength 6, but they've got no powers with them at all. You've got the Redeploy card, which means you can return one of your face-down cards to your hand and play another card. So it's got a bit of a bait and switch there. And of course, the Super Battleship, which is going to absolutely just annihilate in terms of its strength, but has no special abilities. And there are, of course, other cards here, because from round to round, a certain number is going to be taken out. So tug of war as a general mechanism is something I enjoy. There's a lot of classic tug of war games out there that have been in my collection for a long time and are some of my favourite 2-player games. I'm talking games like Lost Cities or Hanamakoji or Battle Line. These are real classic games, and I will say this game does feel somewhat in the vein of those, but with a bit of extra spice. So especially because of what these cards actually do in terms of their powers. And I will say a lot of these games that have special powers on them, when you've got a bunch of cards and they all do different things and mesh with each other in different ways, I sometimes find them a bit daunting and a bit overwhelming because, I don't know, I think my brain doesn't quite process all the interlocking mechanisms and can't remember what they all do. And I often find that they almost start diving into the kind of chaos territory where you just don't know what you're doing, you just play a card and hopefully it works out for the best. But I will say that because there is only 18 cards in this game, and the more you play this, the more you're going to start appreciating and starting to understand how these cards link with one another and how they're going to work with each other, the kind of strategies that your opponents might be going for, then you're going to start to getting more and more with this one and starting to get a more rich experience. So I love the fact that the more you play it, you're going to start to understand that, and you're going to really ramp up the tension between you and your opponent. So this is certainly one of those games that's going to reward repeated plays with the same opponent. And I love what these cards can do. I think it's so innovative in terms of the things you can do and the scope of actions and synergies. I'm considering there's only 18 cards in the game. I think that's wonderfully done, and such a concise and precise design in terms of all the interlocking mechanisms and different routes you can take. Absolutely wonderfully designed. I am also in love with this withdrawing mechanism. I think this is fascinating, as you can use cards to bluff your opponent and just choose to make them, make them doubt themselves. They might think, I'm going to smash this. I've got a great bunch of cards, but you just keep playing them. You're looking strong on the table, and it makes your opponent kind of lose their bottle and lose their guts and think, he's obviously very confident. I'm going to withdraw from the battle and only give them a few points rather than the 6 points if they'd smash me. And then, once the round's over, you start to reveal your cards and understand that you've maybe been bluffed, you've been fooled by your opponent, and that adds a whole new wrinkle and a whole new meta game to this design that I absolutely love. And it actually it just synergizes well, because not only mechanically is the game sound, the actual interaction and head games that you can play with your opponent adds so much more depth to this game. I really enjoy how this game only takes 20 minutes to play, and despite that quick time frame, the easy rules overhead, there are some real strong and difficult decisions to be made throughout, not only in terms of playing the cards in the right order, but of course that decision of whether you're going to keep going or choosing when to withdraw, and of just knowing what to go for. This game, every single card play is important and can massively affect the outcome of the round. And I love games like that where there's no kind of throwaway actions, there's no wasted movement, and this game certainly has that in spades. From a production standpoint, I would say that I'm generally happy with the components. All the card quality is really good. These are nice and clear. The tokens are good. And basically it's 18 cards plus a few extras just for your kind of board state. I would say the artwork is somewhat generic. It's certainly good. I'm not going to complain about the artwork. It's well done. However, I think that maybe the theme and the artwork isn't going to be to everyone's taste. You might think this is a bit more of a stuffier, a bit more of a salty gamers type of game, where in reality anybody can play this and enjoy it. And I think that kind of World War theme could put some people off. Now that's just me being speculative. Me personally, I don't mind it at all. I think it works quite well, and I think the illustrations are really good. But just bear in mind that people might be put off, and it's not like the most inviting game out there. Overall, I am massively impressed with Air, Land and Sea. I'd heard a lot of good things about it, but I don't know, some part of me doubted how good this would be, because I'm always a big advocate of the classics, as I said, the Lost Cities, the Battle Lines. This one is easily as good as those games, and I often say there are a lot of good filler games out there. There are a lot of good two-player games out there. However, there aren't many great ones. I would confidently say this is a great filler game and a great two-player game. I highly recommend this one if you like your clever little card games, you like these little interlocking mechanisms, and some good tug of war. This is absolutely fascinating. I'm so impressed, and this is a big, pleasant surprise for me, and possibly a candidate of the year in terms of winning that award. So I would highly recommend this game if you enjoy your two-player games. You want something you can play in 20 minutes that isn't brainless. You have a lot of thought-provoking decisions to be made, and just a wonderful, concise game with just 18 cards. And I love it when games achieve so much with so little. And Air, Land and Sea is just a great example of that. So highly recommended. Certainly gets my shield of quality. That is Air, Land and Sea. If you have enjoyed the review, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.